r/AskReddit. Serious alien abductees or those who claim to have seen a UFO/alien phenomena. What is your story? I'm not sure if this counts as alien or not, but I definitely saw something I can't explain at all about 5 years ago and have been dying to tell the story in a thread. About 5 years ago, me and 2 other friends were on our way back from Warped Tour in Maryland, being driven by one of the friends' mom, because none of us had a car we could drive yet. It was almost night, the sun was still kind of out, and it wasn't that dark yet, and we were driving on a 2-lane highway that had trees on either side of the road and a median in the middle of the lanes. Basically, some creature ran out from the trees on the other side of the highway, jumped the median, and sprinted towards the trees on our side. We almost hit the thing and our friend's mom had to slam on the brakes and everyone as the car was screaming our heads off. Not because it was a look out for that deer situation, but because this was the scariest looking thing I've ever seen. It was black, had long gangly limbs and moppy black long stringy hair. This thing moved so weirdly that I can see it clearly to this day. It galloped so awkwardly, did not run at all like a deer or anything of the sort. When it jumped off of the back 2 legs and landed again on the back 2 legs before coming down and galloping across the road. Everyone in the car said the same thing, which was, what was that thing? To this day I'm convinced it was a demon or an alien or an escaped medical experiment. It was large and terrifying, and the way it moved was unlike anything I have ever seen in my life. I wish I had more details, but sadly that's all I remember. I've asked my friends and that friend's mom about it numerous times years after the fact, and it still gives everyone shivers. This is the craziest UFO phenomena true story, and it came from my dad. 1960s in Ethiopia. My dad is just a child, 9 years old, at the time, playing with his best friend Gabriel after school. They were playing in the fenced backyard of my dad's house. My dad turns his back for a second, then turns to look back at his friend, and Gabriel is gone. It's important to note that my dad and Gabriel were from the top 1% of Ethiopia's ruling elite. My dad's father was Minister of Interior of Ethiopia and Gabriel's father was a 4-star general of Ethiopia. The backyard Gabriel disappeared from had 10-foot bricked walls with armed guards patrolling on the outside. A couple of hours pass. His parents, my dad's parents, and guards are searching, but no Gabriel. 48 hours pass. Now there is a nationwide search for this important general's kid. It's on the news. Police are searching door to door, describing him and what he was wearing when he disappeared. He was wearing his private school uniform, white shirt, brown pants. Helicopters even searched the countryside looking for him. Still nothing. A month passes, then 4. People start losing hope that he would ever be found and think the worst. Exactly 6 months to the day he disappeared, Gabriel appears back in my dad's backyard. He was wearing the same white shirt, private school uniform, and it was still clean. He looked exactly the same as when he disappeared. This is where it starts to get weird. Once they confirmed his was okay, they started asking where he had been. He said couple of nice men took him on a trip. He was in a white room that glowed, and other children were there from different countries. He said he was surprised that the nice men who looked like white guys could speak Ethiopian and he could understand what the other children were saying, even though they were not Ethiopian. The white glowing room had no windows and the doors disappeared into the walls. There were buttons on the walls, and if a kid pushed them, a bed would come out of the wall. He said he was then all of a sudden in a city that was glowing, clean, and cars were flying around him. He said there was people there, but they looked strange, like us but different. One nice man was still with him and took him to a tall building where he said he had to stay there for a while, but showed him a room that he could use for entertainment. Gabriel said he could push a button and the room itself goes places, an open field, the beach, the room itself even flies. He said after a couple of hours he was taken back to Ethiopia and appeared in the backyard. He thought he was only gone a couple hours total. No one believed him, and Ethiopia being a super religious country, most adults around him thought he got possessed by the devil. Gabriel even was forced to see a priest to get the evil spirits out of him. My dad still kept in contact with him throughout their lives. Gabriel got a doctorate in physics and I believe works Holland still. Never thought I'd be someone to have a missing time story, but it happened. December 29th 2001, we left my house at 6 p.m. We rode our bikes to the woods down THD block and hung out there for a bit. My friend was crushing the iced lake with a fence pole we found, and suddenly I heard footsteps behind me. I got up and ran to my friends and the lake was frozen back over. We checked the time. It was 8:15. We then saw the most amazing shooting star horizon to horizon above us. We even heard it. We hid in the woods and saw a star slowly move across the sky. Normally I would say it's a satellite, but it moved a few inches in the sky and then stopped. There's no way over 2 hours went by. The woods are just a few blocks away. This event occurred in 2011 and has haunted me every day since. I work in networking and all of ours are late. I usually get off around 2 AM and then I'm up for a few hours before I go to bed. This evening I got off work and it was raining really bad on my way home. When I got home, by chance, the clouds broke and I stepped outside to have a quick smoke. One of my buddies called me and we were chatting about work. It was still not raining and there were low-lying clouds. There are orange street lights in Allen and they were reflecting off the bottom of the clouds creating an artificial light. There was a pretty good breeze whipping around, but no rain. I was facing the west and I look to my right and I see a black cube moving out of the north and traveling south at about 60-80 miles per hour. It was moving with a corner forward. This thing was huge. I was astonished to the core of my soul. I sat speechless for a few seconds knowing that I was seeing something amazing. It was 100 foot tall. It was a black cube in shape and looked like a rough stone surface. On the side of the cube was a border, and within the border was a circular symbol, if that's what it even was. It looked like if you were to draw a circular maze. It was disturbing the air behind it and created a vaporous trail spinning behind it and then disappearing. There was absolutely no sound. None. If you know Dallas, it was traveling in the direction of southbound 75 Central Expressway towards downtown. I told my buddy what I had seen, and he lives a few miles south. I fumbled over my words telling him and asked him to go outside to see if he could see it. He went out to the middle of his street and looked in the direction that it was coming from. After about 5 minutes it started to rain again. He stood out in the rain for another 15 minutes, but never saw it. Good friend, lol. Anyways, no one can ever tell me that I didn't see what I saw that night. I have been ridiculed and laughed at, but I know what I saw. It is almost a relief at this point to know that they are really here. I have been a long time lurker, and I had to get this off of my chest. I have been searching Black Cube UFO for years now, every single day. I cannot stop thinking about it. I have to see it again. When I was about 12, my family bought a fishing cabin by a small river about 70 miles from our home. On our first visit to stay in this cabin, it was kind of a work vacation, meaning we were painting and fixing and stuff as well as fishing. One of the people who lived near this cabin came over to say hi and introduce herself. During the course of her visit she told us, "Don't be afraid of the purple glowing mist you will see. It's just from the UFOs, and it won't hurt you." All of us kids snickered at this while elbowing each other, so my mom chased us off and apologized to the woman. She later yelled at us for being rude. 2 nights later we were out night fishing with our dad. The stars were amazing looking without the city's light pollution, and we were all pointing at different constellations and challenging each other to name them. My youngest brother pointed to a perfect circle of about 7 bright stars and asked, "What are those called?" We all kind of froze and stared because, well, there is no such constellation, yet here it was. While we were looking at it, all the stars took off silently in different directions and vanished over all the surrounding horizons. We ran. Looking back, it was stupid to run. I mean, the things were already gone. But we were spooked and we ran as fast as we could back to the cabin where mom was sleeping. About half the way there, our dad overtook us and ran straight into the cabin ahead of us, slamming the door. When we got in the cabin he told us, "Just shut up and go to bed." He sounded angry, so we did just that. The next morning at breakfast, when we tried to talk about it, Dad angrily said that he didn't remember any of that and to stop with the stupid stories. My sister asked, "Why did you run then?" He said that he was tired and wanted to get to bed was all. He was tired, so he ran. My dad could be a real goober sometimes. This wasn't the only time we saw things in the sky while staying there, but it was the most interesting. We tried on a few occasions to get pictures, but it was the early 60s and cameras sucked half the time back then. At least the cheap kid cameras we had did. We were afraid asked to use dad's good camera for that. We only had that cabin for a few years when my dad suddenly sold it. We never could get him to talk about that night. He would firmly deny it every time we tried. Never did see the purple glowing mist though we looked for it. I've never seen a UFO, but I've experienced what most people call greys. For the entirety of my 34 years. They, or perhaps a small group of them, have been interested in me for reasons beyond my comprehension. I can't say for certain if what I've experienced is real, but the fact that the fear is so strong makes it very hard to ignore. They show up, they look, and they look so deep into you. The fear and helplessness is like nothing you will ever experience in waking life. The very life within you shrinks and shakes and they keep looking, sometimes inches from your face. It is pure fear, and when you wake it is like you have been born again. Sure, it could be night terrors, but night terrors don't leave doors open, TVs on, and your pets terrified under furniture. Thank you for watching. Like the video and leave a comment if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel, follow on Twitter, and join the Discord and subreddit so you never miss a new video.